if you could delete the music of one band from music history, what band would it be?
Oh God, man, come on.
I mean, maybe artists as well. I guess, and have to just be a band. I can tell you mine like straight up.
Well, I'm going to say Lost Prophets, because no one should ever be listening to that shit now, should they? So,
have you seen on Spotify? They still have quite a lot of listeners. Like, it's still
ridiculous.
Well, I was just going to say ABBA.
Oh, come on, man. I mean, fair enough. It's pretty cheesy, but
I feel like you've got the moral high ground here. You know, there's a different angle. Yeah, my reason's perhaps different. I feel. I hope.
What's your reason?
Not the one that you said. No, I just hate them. I just hate their music. I don't know what it is. Whenever it comes on, like, I know, like, I think it's a lot of people's guilty. It's a lot of people just pleasures, full stop, isn't it? But I've just never. It's never done it for me. It's never.
Hey, that's as good a reason as any.
Yeah, I wouldn't shit on. Well, I probably would shit on them, but I won't.
It's pretty cheesy, man. It is pretty cheesy.
Yeah.
It's quite cringy at times. I mean, if I was going to listen to something, I don't know that you can really compare the two, but if I was going to listen to something like that, I'd probably put on Fleetwood Mac instead.
That is not a fair comparison. I'm not. That's not even in my head. The levels of music, like. Oh, to be fair, there are some Fleetwood Mac I don't like. I'm not big on Stevie Nicks' voice. I don't know.
I just mean like something from that sort of. I don't even know if they're from the same era, so I don't even know why I'm saying this. But if I was going to listen to something like that style or something similar or from the same era or whatever, I would probably listen to Fleetwood Mac over ABBA.
Yeah. There's something about I like their more rocky stuff. I'm not big on the kind of the more. What's the one with the synthy, wavy intro? Is it?
Oh, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I'm not. Sadly,
I'm not saying this because I'm a fan. I'm just saying I would probably choose to listen to that over ABBA. I'm talking shite. Let's be honest.
Well, I wasn't going to add anything particularly valuable in that. I think my first proper CD I had was a Lost Prophets CD. No, it was an Ozzy Osbourne CD actually. So I actually have redeemed that somewhat.
100%. Was it Osmosis?
I don't remember which one it's. I don't remember. It was just a white. I can't remember the name of it now. But yeah, weirdly, that does bring me on to something actually, because the first. Again, this is kind of like a mixed memories. Because the first two music videos I ever remember seeing, and like, sort of locking into my head as like, oh, that's cool. Like for rock and metal music was there was. Sadly, it was a Lost Prophets song, but the other one was System of a Down, Chop Suey. You know, the video with when they're spinning around, they like flip the camera angles and they're all going in and out of the... and that kind of ties nicely in, because I know I've seen you do is it your full-time gig doing the video editing side of things? Is that all you kind of do alongside the music?
Yeah.
How's that in terms of your sort of creative side of things? Is it the same kind of mindset you get into when you're thinking about doing that stuff?
How do you mean in comparison to what? Like
in comparison to, say, when you sit down to do some vocal work, or kind of is it the same kind of headspace? Or
no, I wouldn't really say so. Like, see, to be honest, like most of the videos that I do, I'm basing what I'm doing off artwork that someone else has created. So like, say for example, like I'm doing a single for the first single for the new album, and they will send me the album artwork. So it's mostly like I have sort of this creative idea already in front of me, and I just basically cut that out and like sort of make elements of it 3D and move and animate and just stuff like that. So but there has been occasions where obviously like they don't have any artwork, and I have to like read through the lyrics and try and create like a sort of visual concept from what I'm reading in the lyrics. And I guess from that perspective it is quite similar to writing lyrics, but it's just not as personal. You know, I can't really relate to it as much as I can when I'm putting words to a song, essentially, because I want to really speak about something or sing about something that means something to me. You know what I mean? It's a totally different. I don't really compare the two at all.
No, that's totally fair. I was just kind of wondering if it's because to me, I just have this. I've kind of said it before, but I just have this a bit of a cut off between like for me, I enjoy and I can really appreciate other forms of art beyond music. But I just kind of, it doesn't, I'd very happily, with assuming I have the money, pay someone else to do a lot of the other elements. I want to have a say, but like I don't need to be the originator in that. You know, things like album artwork and stuff. Like I obviously want to have a say, you know, and I'd want to
of course,
direct.
It's your vision.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel no need to be part of the actual creation of it. Like as long as I can say, I might say, okay, I want, you know, like, I don't know, I might think of an image that I want on the artwork, but I wouldn't actually, I'd be like, okay, here's the image, I trust you because you're good at this. Can you sort of actualize this thing? I'm not, I don't know why, it's just not how my brain works. But you said with your lyrics and things like that and kind of the vocal side of things, so there's kind of two things I was going to ask. One is, do you like, and this kind of ties in with the video stuff a little bit, but do you like being sort of the originator and creating from scratch, you know, just out of thin air? Or do you prefer taking ideas from, like, working in a group for lyrics and stuff like that, or taking ideas from something else, so like listening to a song and then getting the lyrics? Or do you like to sit down with a notepad and sort of get the thoughts out and put the lyrics down like that?
See, to be honest, it changes. Like, see if I'm, like, you know, if I'm going through something in life, like, for example, like, before we released Shrine, when we were writing for Shrine, most of the time I'll like listen to the song first and then try and like put down like sort of template rhythms vocally over what the song's doing, and then the lyrics will come after, and then after that it's sort of like trying to make those lyrics that I've put in place tie together to create a sort of like theme. But sometimes, like, if I'm going through something, I will just write stuff down. Like when we're writing Shrine, my grandmother was going through dementia, and I was trying to like just like grasp that in my head and understand how. Like, I don't know, it's not one of these things I'm like really clued up about, but like, obviously I was feeling something for that and I was going through it, so I did write that down first, and I tried to fit those lyrics to a few different songs, and it just didn't work. Because that's the one thing you'll run into if you try to like write lyrics before you have the song, is sometimes those like collection of words, if you will not fit into like a bar of a verse because there's too many syllables to like try and. I don't know. I don't know. I'm tripping up over myself here. I don't know what I'm saying, but do you understand what I mean? Like, just sometimes it just doesn't work and it doesn't flow to the music. But then obviously the song Levitate came and it just fitted so perfect over that song. So just that's the one thing I always find I run into, like, as being a problem when I'm write down words before I have the song. So most of the time I will just listen to the song like over and over and over, and then sometimes like things just jump out at you, and I feel like when it comes naturally like that, it's always the best work.
Do you feel like putting the... Sorry, go on.
And I can't remember what I was going to say, man. I was like, you caught me off guard with that one, man. I'm not the best speaker at the best of times.
The front man, though.
Yeah, tell me about it, man. That's why I always fucking talk shit on stage.
One of my favourite things was, I think it was your Bloodstock set.
I know what you're going to say. I'm sure it was Download.
What am I going to say? Because you might say something better than what I'm going to say.
When I called the crowd English wankers.
That wasn't at all what I was going to say. No, I was just going to...
Obviously just a joke, but like I remember when I said it, I turned around because it was it was the day after Scotland played England.
Oh no, yeah.
And obviously I wasn't exactly fucking... Can't even remember the score, but I'm sure I wasn't best pleased. But I was like just making a joke about it, like how many Scottish people here, and I was like, how many English people here? I was like, wah! I was like, English wankers. Just obviously having a joke, and I turned around and Ali was like a sheet of paper, man. He was just so white. He was like, why did you say that, man?
That's amazing. I think
it was all in good humour.
If anyone's offended by that, then yeah, no, that's...
No, I mean, if someone called me a Scottish wanker, I'd be like, thanks very much.
Yeah, take it to heart in like the best way. Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I think it was the end of your set, or it might have just been a set that I'd seen on YouTube or something. And you ended it with like the biggest scream of the word cheers that I've ever heard anyone do, and I was like, that's like the most Scottish way to end a
yes!
or at least, yeah, or at least, yeah, or to be fair, I could picture like a Cockney kind of cheers at the end of a it's just to me that was just perfect. Yeah, but like when you're kind of putting words, putting thoughts into words, do you like to put your personality on there? I mean, in the sense, because obviously every singer kind of does to an extent, but your personal experience is into what you're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like, especially when I'm listening to like other vocalists' songs or other band songs, but like listening to the vocals, I like to like I like it to feel real, if that makes sense. Like I want to hear the emotion in their voice, and I feel like that's only going to come through like if they really mean what they're saying. It's going to sound way more like personal and legit, and just that's the sort of thing that excites me about vocals. And so I always try my best to sort of achieve that. It's hard at times though, man, because like sometimes, like, I don't know, sometimes I find it really difficult to write lyrics, and I rely quite heavily on Ali for this as well, because he's so good, man. Like, I would say, especially with the last album, it was probably 50-50 between me and Ali in terms of songwriting or like writing lyrics. And I always well prefer what he does to what I do. I don't know if that's just me being self-critical, but I just always much prefer singing Ali's songs than my own.
Is that?
I don't know why.
Can you relate? Like, can you tie his lyrics to your own experiences quite well? Because obviously you said about sort of delivering the reality of how you feel about something, like actually getting that across. Do you feel like you can still deliver that? I suppose obviously you've known him a long time, so. Yeah,
well, I think that's the thing. Like whenever he's writing, he always writes with sort of me in mind, I guess, because I mean we have been friends for so long. Like we know, like all of us in the band, like we went to like school together and stuff. We've known each other our whole life, so we know each other like inside out. And I feel like when he's writing lyrics, he does always sort of write with how I'm going to approach it. Like he always keeps that in mind when he's writing lyrics. And it's not even just about that. For me, it's like, I don't know if it's because he's a drummer, but he's got such a good like way of putting words to a song. I don't know if it's, as I say, I don't know if it's because he's a drummer, but he's just so smart with the way he puts words to a song. And I always much prefer it to what I do. And it's just always way more fun to sing his stuff.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's, I mean, I couldn't start to put it together as to what, your guess is good, well, better than mine as to why that, because it's a similar kind of, I mean, whenever I'm working on lyrical ideas, I'm different. I don't tend to write about personal stuff. So like a lot of the stuff in, well, obviously that you heard that I sent over to you kind of is more about like I guess society and issues within that. And I don't know if that's just me having some deep-seated level of discomfort with sharing my own life with other people. But do you feel like you're an open person in that sense? Like just conversationally, you good at opening up about that stuff, or no?
I'm actually not really, to be honest with you. I feel like that is my way of expressing it, and I'm always quite vague about it in my lyrics as well. It's never like really. I'm never really an open book about it, even in my lyrics. It's always, I like to always leave it, I guess every fucking vocalist says this, but I always like to leave as much it open to interpretation, because I want people to take those songs and feel something as well, and they're never going to feel exactly the way I'm feeling. So I always like to try and write it and leave it open to interpretation as much as I possibly can without it sort of affecting how I feel to the song. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, you still want to get your feelings from it. Inject them in, but I think like that idea of, I really like the idea that when you put a song out there, it's no longer sort of your
song. 100% agree with that, man.
Yeah, and I like, what the thing is, like, joking aside, that I know that we were joking about like Lost Prophets put music out there, and I can't listen to that shit anymore. I can't do it, but I kind of, there's certain bands where like they've got in trouble for this, that, and the other, and I kind of, in my head, I'm like, oh, I feel bad listening to it. But then I also think like, so one, like an example for me, for example, like Pantera, right? Phil got, I can't remember what he said. He said a load of kind of racist stuff, and obviously got in a lot of trouble for that. And I kind of think like, I kind of grew up with some of those songs, you know, like, maybe not grew up with, but it's what got me, a lot of what got me into metal. And I just kind of think like, well, fuck you, I own some of this in my own way, if that makes sense, you know, like it means to me something that has nothing to do with whatever horrible things you want to say in, you know. So I guess that's how I kind of reconcile listening to some of that stuff, because I'm just like, well, that through my own sort of development has allowed me to kind of get into what I do now. So yeah, it's kind of a big, almost like a rebellious FU, I guess. I don't know. That might be a bit of a backwards way of looking at it, you know.
No, I know what you mean. It's kind of a difficult subject to approach, I think, because for me personally, that, like, growing up, they were like, in my opinion, the best metal band in the world. Like, still, those songs are the greatest. Some, in my opinion, the best metal songs ever written. Like, some of them, like, and I just think that they are the pinnacle, man. But at the same time, even now, sometimes when I listen to them, I'm just like, it still leaves a bit of a bitter taste in my mouth, and I don't want to feel like that when I'm listening to those songs. You know what I mean? It's a weird one to approach, but yeah, I don't really know. Like, it definitely has like soured their music slightly for me, to be honest with you. Even though I love those songs so much, I've got a Pantera tattoo in my leg, man.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, I just that's how I look at it. That people will disagree, maybe, or some will, some won't. But like, I don't know. I feel like, because I can't remember who I was talking to about listening. Like, Pantera came on in the car, and they were like, "Oh, skip that," and I was like, "Well, I mean, yeah, like it depends on how you view it." The other thing I think is the one benefit of Spotify not paying you anything is at least you're not giving them any money. Really, you give them like 0.01p, so you don't want to. Yeah. But yeah, I mean that's a whole rabbit hole. But you're talking about like knowing the guys in the band for quite a long time, and I think the impression I get from having just spoken to people, you know, in the scene that are sort of aware of and like your music, there are some people out there who kind of think that you guys have just popped up, like just, oh, this new like metal band, you know, and it seems to me that you guys have obviously been working pretty hard at it for quite a long time. How do you kind of like keep the faith in that? Because I get the impression from what Gunsey, when I chatted to him, he was saying that there were a few like rough years in the band where it was, you know, hard work kind of thing.
It was pretty much over at one point, like no question. It was pretty much done at one point.
Yeah, and how do you kind of push through that, especially with quite like a few of you in the band? You've all got to have that drive, haven't you, to kind of
see if I was in any other band, right, with like, I can't really speak for like anyone else's situation, but like I know quite a lot of bands who are not really that good, like they're not really that close friends, they're just in a band together, it's a business, and that's just, I feel like if we were like that, then we would, like, no question, we wouldn't be a band anymore. But I think the one thing that's like at the corably driven, more important than our music, more important than anything we'll ever do as a band, is our friendship. That means more to me than this band. It means more to me than those songs. Like, those guys they're not even my friends. They're genuinely like my brothers. I've known them my whole life. Like, I trust them with my life, and I feel like that's been the one thing that's sort of kept us going through all of it. It's like, no matter how bad things get, we all have each other as friends, and that's just more important to me than the music or the band or anything we've ever done. And I think that's the one thing that definitely got us through. Although I'm not going to go into the stuff that happened, because I feel like it's just going to cause more shit than it's worth. But it's like, there was a period of time where, like, no question, the band was over. But we had at that point, that was after our album Uprising, and there was like a 5-year period of pretty much nothing between Uprising and Era. But we had like some of the songs for Era written. We were like, do you know what? These songs are great, man. This is the best stuff we've got. It was only demos, but we were like, this is by far this is the jump between Uprising and this is huge. Let's just finish this and put it out and see what happens. What have we got to lose? So obviously we were signed to Century Media at that point. So we spoke to them and they were like, no question, we'll put it out. And it's just kind of went like better than we ever expected. And now we're here. And thankfully, because love the fact that I can still play music with my best friends. And to go back to what you were saying before, about people thinking we're just a new band, I feel like that is the case. Like, it almost feels like a new band as well, to be honest, even though we've been a band for 17 years, which is mental to think I've been in this band more than half of my adult life, which is, in fact, more than half of my lifetime, not even my adult life. I've been in this band more than half of my entire lifetime. And that's mental to think about. But yeah, the thing, it does, sorry what I was saying, sorry, I was getting way off topic there. It does feel like a new band, and I'm kind of glad that people view it that way, because our last 3 albums, in my opinion, is the only really work that I'm really proud of. And I know that would probably piss a lot of people off, because there's a lot of people that still love our first 3 albums, but I'm just not as proud of them as I am as the last 3.
Go on.
I feel like we're going, like now when we go play a live show, we take all of the experience we've had over those 17 years into a live show, and we're like, without sounding like a dickhead, like we're a much tighter band now, and I feel like we're way more prepared to like walk on a bigger stage than we would have been back in 2013 when we released Uprising. We're going onto a stage now as a much better band, and I would rather that than just be thrown into this when you when you're young. Like, we're way more experienced now, and I feel like it's time for us to do that.
Yeah, I think the thing that I sometimes struggle with, and I don't know if this is something that you would share, or maybe you don't. Maybe you're kind of the opposite to me, where I kind of have this thing of I feel like what I create musically is really good. So when it doesn't get the success that I feel like it deserves, I get a bit sort of down about it, or I get, it's almost that expectation kind of effect. And whereas I've chatted to a lot of people on the podcast who are the opposite, where they don't feel like any of what they create deserves to be where it is, or like I've chatted to guitarists who kind of don't feel like they've earned their place, even though they clearly have, Where do you sit on that like spectrum, or are you just in a good place with what you make in that way?
I feel like it's quite a tough one to say. I feel like when we're writing music, we're not writing music to be, honestly, not to be a big band. It's just like writing music because we really can enjoy doing it. If it does well, it does well. If it doesn't. Like, I just try not to like overthink that sort of stuff. Like, obviously I want the stuff, the music that we create together to do well, and there's no better feeling than, like doing a headline show and people turn up. That is like the most rewarding feeling in the world, and I feel you've obviously seen us a good few times, and I feel like that's not something that I hide on stage, or gratitude for that is like, but what can you do? Like, you just do your best, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, that's just the way it is, and I just try not to like overthink that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
I understand why people do, and I understand why you just like, I understand what you meant there. Like, I totally get it. And I thought if there's any consolation, I thought your music was fucking great. So I've told you that a million times.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, no, I'm sure I'll do something else. Well, no, I know I will, but just when is the next question. But yeah, I got some ideas together and sort of been messing around with things a bit, but we'll see at some point. I kind of want to I want to put it out the right way, I don't want to be that guy that holds on to his music for like 15 years and goes, it's ready, and like, you don't know anyone in the scene anymore or anything. But I never know. It was weird because with the podcast, I kind of just jumped straight into it. I was like, okay, I'm just going to start putting shit out, and I have just been working on it and it is now growing a bit quicker, or quite a lot quicker than it was before. So I never know how to find that balance of like just doing it versus actually, okay, let's just make sure this is ready and like professional enough. So it's a weird one. But now that you've got more kind of sort of quote unquote like more sort of commercial success, especially with the latest album and stuff, is there more of that pressure? I know you said that you don't have that kind of, it's for you, it is more about the music and just enjoying that, loving that process, I guess. Is there a bit more of a pressure, say for the, I'm guessing you'll be thinking about, you know, what's the plans for the next album? Or I don't know where you guys are in that. I know some bands have like 3 albums up their sleeve. But is there a bit more of a weight as you grow as an artist to kind of go, oh shit, like we've got to put something good together now. Like this has got to be, you know, no slack in here kind of thing.
The pressure of that is mostly just us putting pressure on ourselves to write a better album. It's not about like, okay, that album done well, people are going to now expect a better album. It's more like we expect us to write a better album now, because, you know, like to think of it back when you're like a kid and the band that you absolutely loved, and they would have like 2 unbelievable albums that you love, and then the next album was just like, that just wasn't as good. That was like devastating for me, especially when I loved a band, to the point where I almost like forced myself to like an album that I probably didn't like as much, you know, like, and I never want to be that band. I want to be like, you know, a band that's just known for putting out good music. And I feel like the pressure of that is mostly just us putting pressure on ourselves. Like for me, like just an example of that, like when we released Shrine, there was way more of the sort of clean vocal choruses than there was on the previous albums. And that was mostly just from a point of like, when we released Era, right, I wanted to start doing that, not because I thought it was going to get us commercial success, if you will, or it was going to make us bigger. I wanted to, you know, push myself to be a better vocalist and expand my horizons and give me something like to work towards. And for me, that's exciting. I don't want to do the same shit over and over and over again, you know? And when we started doing that, I enjoyed it so much. And then I put pressure on myself to write better melodies, to write catchier hooks. And that's why there's way more on Shrine. And then now when we go do the next album, the pressure is just going to be on ourselves, really, just to write a better album. Like, and I have faith in the rest of my band, like, as musicians, that I know for a fact they're going to write better music. So the pressure I put on myself is I need to write catchier vocals. I need to sound like a better vocalist. I need to have more dynamic in my voice. And it's just from that angle, as opposed to like, what do other people think? You know what I mean?
It's good. I think, especially the weird thing being that because I first clocked you guys when you put out your previous album's Fracture is that the name of the album? Oh, that's one of the songs. Yeah. That's the name of the album, right? Sorry, very professional. Yeah. That's when I first clocked you guys. I remember hearing that Night Crossing riff, being like, "Whoa, this is cool. I'm gonna listen to some more of this." But obviously I'm a guitarist, so that was just the bit that I like. That's for me.
Yeah.
That obviously blowing up, kind of in a bit of a weird time, you know, like a weird kind of. I saw weirdly sort of comparable thing, or you can disagree, but I saw a clip of all things from like the Graham Norton show. You know, you see loads of just random crap come up on your phone. And it was the I've forgotten her name, but the actress in Queen's Gambit, the chess Netflix series, saying about like sort of becoming. She obviously became basically really famous through COVID, and then had this weird thing of like suddenly, you know, everyone's allowed outside again. And like suddenly everyone knows who she is and it's like asking to play games of chess with them and stuff, you know. What's it like kind of, I don't know if I've maybe mischaracterized that kind of the way that album went, but that's how it seemed to me that kind of really took off. Maybe I just discovered it mid-COVID. But what's it like kind of coming out of that pandemic with like a somewhat noticeable step up in like how many people are listening and just like general step forward for the band?
Yeah. Well, the shows have been better. Like the shows have been slightly bigger, and the one thing we've never had as a band is shows selling out. Like that's just not something we've ever been used to. Like we've always been the sort of band, like if we'd done a headline tour, there'd be like 100 to 200 cap rooms and like 30 people would show up. And now we've noticed, like last year we did the UK headline tour and every show was sold out. And then in the next few weeks we're going to Europe, and that's like 16 shows or something, and the whole tour is like 85% sold out, which is new for us. We're like, that never expected that would happen. So I see, the thing is, I don't know if it's because our music has got better, or we've got better at songwriting, or blah blah blah, X, Y, and Z. Like, or whether it's like we just took the leap to release an album during COVID when people had the time to actually sit down and listen to new music. You know, like people's lives are just 100 mile an hour constantly. You go to work, you come back, you have your dinner, you go to your bed. Like, people generally don't have time. And I'm not sure if it's because we just released an album during a time where people just had nothing to do, that's why the album done so well. I don't really know, but I have noticed like the growth in the band since then.
Yeah, it was
obviously incredible. It feels amazing, but I'm not quite sure how to put my finger on it.
Yeah, it's just like I said, that's when I clocked you guys, and I mean I must have just seen it through people sort of sharing, sort of kind of organically through. It must be a weird feeling having, like you're saying about shows, going from sort of playing to like 30 people or whatever, and then suddenly shows in other countries where you inevitably won't know 99%, if not all of the people there, at least personally. It must be a strange feeling having that connection. Again, talking about things like your lyrics, and you're putting your personality in, and then finding that someone, that you have never met is connected more than you kind of might be able to know. Even if they speak another language, there must be a weird. There's not really a question in there, to be honest. I just thought it was. It must be.
No, I know what you mean. It's honestly such an incredible feeling. Like, the one thing that pure like blows my mind every time we play a show is people singing the words in the crowd, and like when you can hear that over how loud the band are behind you, it is just like, it's the most heartwarming feeling in the world. I can't even put my finger on or try and explain how it feels, but it's just nuts. It's just proper nuts, man. I just love it so much.
Yeah. No, it's a great.
So cool.
I mean, like, you're talking about kind of, and again, kind of going back to your bandmates and them sort of being, almost like family kind of thing. When you're around them, whether it be on stage or recording, writing, whatever. Obviously, I mean, like, everyone in your band is like at a very high level with the instrument. We're not looking at like sort of, some like maybe punk music where the instrument actual proficiency isn't what people care about really, Whereas you go to metal, like, there's a high level of instrumentation in terms of just pure skill. What's it kind of like being around? Do you find it kind of uplifting when you're in that kind of situation, being around such a like technically talented band and like professional band? This sounds like I've sort of singled you out here and be like, what's it like when all of them are talented?
What's it like when all of them are so talented?
I'm including you. I'm including you in the in the talent bundle. But do you find it? The question is, do you find it sort of uplifting being around people like that, or how does it kind of, or do you sometimes feel that kind of, that pressure of being in such a, like, I feel like I'm fumbling now. I sound like a dickhead.
Use guitarists, just don't respect vocalists at all.
Just no respect at all. Yeah,
I'm joking. I know exactly what you mean. I feel like the first things first, I'm very grateful that I play with musicians that are that good. Like, it's like takes a lot of the pressure off when you're about to walk on stage, because I know for a fact they're going to do a great job. But it puts a lot of pressure on me trying to live up to how good those guys are. But at the same time, because I've known them my whole life, I don't really look at them in that way, if that makes sense. Like, I respect how good they are, and I appreciate how good they are. But I don't know, it's like, I don't know if it's just because I've known them my whole life, so I definitely don't look at them the way other people would. I know that sounds probably so disrespectful, but I don't mean it in that way. I just mean it, I don't really know how to put that, to be honest.
I think I know what you're saying. It kind of, there's, to anyone looking at your band from the outside in, particularly anyone that's maybe not known your band for that long, there's that disconnection where, like, you just see this, like, really talented group of musicians. You don't...
Yeah.
Whereas when you're in that group, it's kind of a different story, because I'm speaking from my experience of playing to all of 100 people, but like when people,
doesn't the amount of people in the room doesn't change how good the band is. Doesn't change the experience.
Yeah, I found some of the of the sort of gigs that we played, I found some of the best ones were the ones where we maybe played to, like, I don't know, 40 or 50 people, but they were all like really into what was going on,
Yeah.
Whereas, like, when we played Bloodstock, it was really great because that's like the first festival we'd done, and it was there's a big crowd, but like, and the tent kept filling up.
I came to watch your show there.
Did you see us?
I told you this when we met backstage.
I know you. I knew you'd heard the music. I didn't know you'd seen us play.
Yeah, you were in the I can't remember the name of the tent. It was like the smaller kind of blue and red tent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came to see your show. That I told you that. I'm sure I told you that backstage.
Oh, I didn't remember you actually saying that you'd seen. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, well, it was but that was a weird one where, like, obviously people didn't know us, so it was like, when we're not like one of those bands where it's just like pit, you know, like every song like breakdown all the time. So it was a bit of a weird one where like we'd hit a breakdown and people would kind of be going like nodding their head, and like fight each other a bit, and it wasn't quite
fight each other a bit.
Can you shout that at your next yeah.
That's going to be my new stage chat.
Yeah,
fight each other a bit.
I'm slowly trying to influence people on the podcast. I mean, if you look at Rudy Ayub, I don't know if you know him. I chatted to him, would be a few episodes back. It was the second time. He's the first person I chatted to a couple of times now. But the only person he now follows on TikTok is Madonna, because I told him about Madonna's weird TikTok thing, and now that's his only. I checked the other day. I was like, oh, he still follows her.
Who is this you were talking about?
Rudy Ayub. He's a sort of YouTuber, guitarist guy. He's quite. You've probably seen.
You see that? I thought you meant Alex Rudinger.
Oh no, I'd love to chat to him. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no, it's I'm just trying to slowly, just influence everyone around me. Yeah, with all of that kind of growth, and then obviously I've seen you just announce that US tour. That's the first time you're going over there, right?
Yeah, but the first time I've ever been. Yeah.
Yeah, is that kind of a does that feel like to me? There's something about a US tour that's so distinctly different, and like almost kind of the next step up from doing that, like the European circuit.
Yeah.
Is there sort of mentally when you kind of get that news, we can do this US tour, and this is, and it's like, it's not just like a small kind of thing. Obviously the band you're playing with, that's going to be some killer shows. Like, does that kind of help? Does that kind of like validate all of the work, or because I know you talk about enjoying, sort of basically seeing the importance in just enjoying the music and loving what you do and doing it with your friends as well. How much importance do you place on things like these big wins, like getting a US tour, or like getting main stage at, Bloodstock or Download? How do you do you put a lot of importance on that? Do you really feel that like win when it happens?
100%, yeah. Well, no question, man. Like, going, and I totally agree with you saying it does feel like sort of the next step up, like being, and again, it all goes back to, like, I don't want to keep going on about this, but it all goes back to like what I was saying about us just being kids growing up playing music together. It's like, when I think about that, like, my 5 best mates that I grew up in this small town just outside Glasgow with, practicing every Tuesday night in this like shit, I don't want to say shit, it's such an amazing place, like this rehearsal studio in our hometown. The fact that we're going to tour America is just mental, like, and I always just think back to moments like that and just makes me appreciate it so much more. It's so cool, and I just can't wait to get over there. Like, I don't really know how it's going to go. I don't know if anyone there knows who we are. It's just like the not knowing is exciting.
Yeah, that's I suppose it's kind of a win-win, because if they do know who you are, they'll be singing along and going crazy, and if they don't, then that sometimes it might be a harder sell, but then you're going to be gaining new fans and new audiences that you can then kind of, I
love that challenge, man. Like, see the walking onto a stage to a room full of people who have no idea who you are. Love that challenge. Like, I feel like it actually brings out a better vocalist and a better frontman. Like, in me, it's like the challenge of like, I need to win these cunts over. And I say cunts, I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, like, in Scotland, we used to
English
for like. You're putting words in my mouth now, man.
That's going to be the tagline on the podcast now.
Oh,
you'll get some clicks.
Don't say that. Don't say that, man, please. Where was I?
Winning them over.
Yeah, I love that. Like, the biggest challenge I've ever had was when we did the UK tour of Megadeth. no one in any of those rooms gave a fuck about us. No, they didn't want to either. Like, no one cared. No one wanted to like us. But I loved that challenge, just knowing like I'm going to change these people's minds. And I probably failed, but at least I tried. Like, I'll never forget in the London show, it was Brixton Academy. There was just one guy down the front, like 3 rows back from the barrier, right in the centre, just in front of me, just stood like this the whole time. And I mean, for our 30-minute set, he did not take his hand down once. So I just kept like pointing him
out. So he just kept like...
The whole show was just like this. And did not take his hand down for 1 second during our entire 30-minute set.
So, and do you mean when you walked on, he was already like that, or he heard like three beats of music and was like,
probably had like 3 beats, yeah. And he was just like, he probably just seen us, because this was like, what, 2013? He probably just thought, yeah, you know, like the old school, like metalheads, like they're quite elitist, and as soon as they see a bunch of young guys on a stage, they're just like, no, I'm not going to like this. I don't even want to try. So I just kept like pointing him out and just saying, this next song goes out to our biggest fan, this guy down here, and like just dedicated like every song to him. And I think like that made like loads of other people in the crowd kind of laugh and then start to appreciate us a bit more, just because I was making a joke out of it. Because, you know, loads of bands could get proper butthurt about that situation, but okay, what can you do? Like, just at least make light of it and have a joke, have a laugh.
Yeah. Have you always been like that, even when, you know, you're playing, you know, your first few shows as a band? Have you always been in that mindset of like enjoying trying to win them over, even when there's like, you know, 10, 20 people in the room kind of thing?
I've kind of always been of the mindset, like, it doesn't matter how many people are in that room, you have to like put on the best show you possibly can. Like, it doesn't matter if there's 10 people in the room. Like, if those 10 people leave that room saying that band were fucking shit, they're going to go tell other people that band are fucking shit live. So like, I would never want to go out and just half-arse it because there's not a lot of people in the room. I still want those people, like those 10 people or 20 people, whatever, to like leave saying that band were amazing. That's ultimately, like, I guess, like the goal. Like for us, it's mostly about being a live band. I would never want to half-arse that ever. Yeah,
I was reading. I mean, it ties like I've been reading recently. Doesn't go to show because I can't even speak. The tipping point. I've literally kind of just started it, but and he talks about how like such a small group of people can create entire epidemics. You know, in terms of like social, you know, change and like you know, it only takes sometimes a small selection of extremely passionate people. He also references like STIs and stuff and how they spread, so not that side of things, but it takes an incredibly passionate group of people, for example things like fashion, to create a trend where someone sees someone wearing that thing, and it's the same where like you know, how much value would you place on, you know, if you put your sort of business hat on, I guess, you know, 100 fans that think you're cool, or one fan that literally lives by your lyrics kind of thing. And I'd be willing to bet that one fan probably would do more for you, you know, maybe not in the room. It looks better to have 100 people in the room, but in terms of like, you know, getting the word out about who you like, what you're all about. I feel like that's, have you got any like diehard fans that for the whole time you've been a band you just still see them at shows?
Oh man, like, see, the thing is, most of the people like that, like, are now our friends. Like, I remember back in 2013, we had this guy called Connor McNally. He came to every show. He travelled to like Europe and stuff to see us, and now he's one of our best friends. Like, he was up in Glasgow recently, staying over at Goodsy's house. Like, people like just, you know, like, it's that way if you're around people so much, you just, you know, you naturally, especially if you're like-minded people. And obviously they have good music taste. You just become friends. Like, I don't like that separation between artist and fan. I don't even like the word fan, to be honest with you. just a group of people that are like-minded people and come together and have a good time. And I think that's the most important thing about it. Like, especially when we go on tour, we play shows, we don't sit back in the dressing room all night. I hate that divide. Like, we're all out at the merch table every night hanging out with people. That's one of the most fun parts of being in a band and being on tour, is meeting new people and having conversations and just having a good time.
Well, I mean, we probably wouldn't be here if that hadn't, because I met you in the middle of a field and after you played Download, right?
Download, yeah.
So, and I probably bit your ear off about all sorts of random.
No, I remember. I remember that day well. Like, we sat and spoke for ages. Like,
yeah. It was funny. I think one thing that really struck me actually that was when I said I met you then at Download, and I was like, I remember saying like, oh, it'd be cool to send you some music to check out. And obviously I knew, you're in a fairly popular sort of band, been around for about a year or so, and doing well for that first year. But I knew, I was like, I obviously got a very good impression of you, but I was like, he probably won't listen, because like, I'm sure you probably get a fair few Instagram messages and blah, blah, blah. So when you actually did message me back and say like, oh man, the music's really good, even if you hadn't enjoyed the music that much and you just checked it out, that's still just that actual step, I think, is something that, possibly is kind of conducive to longer term success, that just openness to just, almost just say hello and just be a part of what, because I feel like, musicians seem to be moving away from that separation, that kind of, sort of godlike figure on the stage sort of thing. Which I don't quite know what to make of it. Is, when you go business about it, you can lose that sense of awe, which might be part of what people want to see from you. But maybe the way you do that is by just being a human being and then still going and like smashing it on stage. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's the way it's kind of going now. Like thinking back to when I'm a kid, like these people in bands, there was such a mystery to them, like now, whereas nowadays, like you can literally see what your favorite vocalist, your favorite guitarist, favorite drummer, whatever, you can now see what they had for breakfast every day now, like, you know what I mean, on social media. Like, times are changing, and I think the most important thing is just being a good person, just taking the time to chat to people. And I actually enjoy that anyway. I love like meeting new people and chatting away, and just, for me, that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
like, I would never want that sort of separation between me and anyone that listens to our band. Like, when we're all in that room together, we are all best mates. That's kind of the way I view it, and that's the way I want like people to feel, like they're in a room hanging out with their best mates. They're not at a show and there's this division between them and the person on the stage, because to me that's bullshit. Don't like that stuff at all.
Well, I think it's I do think it's cool how, like, at the end of I think every time I've seen you've done it, where on the last show you'll go and sort of be sort of half either crowd surfing or kind of like in with the crowd, kind of singing along.
Yeah.
It's kind of that connection is I think it's quite a hard thing to do. I think you've got to have a certain level of empathy and like willingness to connect with people. I don't quite know how to put it, but like, have you always had that, I guess, desire to sort of connect with people in that way? Have you always been someone that feeds off of that kind of thing? Because I know some people are quite insular, even quite successful musicians are quite like keep themselves to themselves in that sense. Are you not extroverted, but like, do you get your energy kind of off of that connection with the people around you, or do you find that you prefer your sort of alone time sometimes?
Yeah, I'm definitely not extroverted. No chance, man. Like, when I've had a few beers, I would talk to absolutely anyone, man. Like, everyone. I'm everyone's best friend, right? But like, when I'm not, I'm genuinely can be quite a social awkward person. But all that changes when I'm on stage. Like, I've had this conversation to people a few times. Like, recently, me and my wife were at a wedding, and I was like, I could not stand up there and give that speech like that in front of a room full of people. And she was like, you literally stand on stage to thousands of people and talk to them. And I was like, I totally get that, but I don't know where the line is there. But I just, for me, standing on stage and talking to however many people, it could be 1 million people, and I would be so confident to do it with my band standing behind me, but I could not stand up in a room full of people and give like a speech at a wedding or something like that. I would I couldn't do that. But when it comes to just standing having a one-to-one conversation, like when me and you met at Download, that's totally fine. I feel fine doing that. Like, it's weird. It's weird how things like that work, innit?
Yeah, I guess it probably. I don't know where that. I know what the difference. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a bit like the difference between playing to, 1,000 people and 10 people. It's like, even if the 10 people are really into it, it still feels a bit like, oh man, like you're really watching me. You can see everyone's face.
Yeah.
And that's another one where it's like, it shouldn't make sense. In theory, the more people, it's like there's more people to judge you. But yeah, I guess it's putting a different side of yourself in front of people, isn't it? Like, it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not like a persona, I know, in the sense that when you're on stage, but it is a sort of a. It's a particular part of you, I guess, that goes on the stage. Have you ever,
something definitely switches.
Do you kind of consciously think about you on stage versus you off stage? Like, do you have a sort of a, I'm gonna, a way of behaving that, because it seems quite authentic to me, but I know some people do kind of feel like they need to sort of think about how they're going to put themselves across on stage, or is that something that just authentically has just kind of grown through just doing it for a long time?
Yeah, I think it's just something that's authentically grown. Like, the one thing I do not do is overthink it. Like, like before we play a show, like, see if you overthink it, man, the nerves will eat you alive. Like, I do not think about what's going to happen on that stage until the minute I step on that stage. And even at that, I don't really think about it. It just kind of naturally happens. I guess with the actual singing the parts during the songs, that's just muscle memory. Like, I don't even have to think about that. But when it comes to like the minute that song stops and you need to talk to all those people, I kind of just wing it in the moment. And I know there's a lot of vocalists out there that basically say the exact same thing on stage every night. It's like kind of scripted. Almost like they'll maybe think about exactly what they're going to say between each song before the tour starts. I couldn't do that. I could not do that, man. I would just that would bore the fucking brains out of me, man.
Well, that made me think of two things. So, I mean, one is actually I'm similar with the podcast. Like, right in front of me, I don't have any questions as such, apart from that first one. That's actually kind of like word for word. I just kind of like write topics, because I think I don't want to just sit here and just like a newsreader just kind of ask you questions. And maybe it'll get to the point where if I do this enough, I can just sort of rock up and, but I don't think I ever want to do that, because then you just, you risk not kind of having that.
I know what you mean. Like, bullet points, notes are good, like, because obviously there's a certain amount of things I'll have to talk about on stage. Like, if we're doing, like, in the summer there where we're doing loads of festivals, now I had to mention the fact that we've got a headline tour at the end of the year, especially if we were in a country that we were actually playing a show in at the end of the year. So there is bullet points of things that I need to talk about, but like the way I actually say it and put it across will change every night. So having a conversation, you don't want to have the same conversation every single day of life, do you? Mm. And I guess for you, that will constantly change as well, because you'll have like sort of a sort of blueprint of what you're roughly going to say, but that each one of those like questions, if you will open up a different conversation with different people. So it's totally different every time, but it's good. I think it's good to have notes, especially for what you're doing, man. You're like asking people questions.
Yeah. It's I try it. Yeah, it's tricky. It's been a weird one to kind of. I've always found like it'll always be when I just like sort of wing it and just write like 3 or 4 notes, and then suddenly, because I'll just be like, yeah, this will be easy, and then I get 20 minutes in like, oh, what was I going to talk about again? So the one thing that you said about the artists who have the same thing that they say every show. So I went to see Alter Bridge. This is probably about 4 years ago. Yeah, 4 years ago or so, maybe longer. Maybe 5 years ago. And Shinedown was supporting them. And they're a brilliant band. But what I found really funny was between a certain point in the set, I forgot the name of the singer. He would say like X town, whatever they're in, or city. You know what they stand for? They stand for respect. Because he said it in Birmingham, and everyone went "fuck off."
See, people see through that shit as well, man.
That's the thing. It's just like Birmingham has such a reputation for just not being the nicest town. I mean, that's where I'm at for anyone from Birmingham that's about to hate on me, but it's just the way he said, you know what Birmingham's known for? Respect. It's just loads of like,
God, but people just see I don't think that what you're saying about Birmingham not being like been known for being a nice place or whatever. I love it there, man, because the people are real.
There's a lot. There is a lot to Yeah,
and that's what I love about Glasgow as well. People are real. People would see through that bullshit.
Yeah, there's what I do like about Birmingham, like the place at Mama Roo's that you guys played at when you did that headline run. That whole area is such a cool little like.
It's well nice.
Yeah, there's loads of cool shit, and even since you played there's like way more shit to do there now.
I love that. I love that whole day was amazing. Like we went to like all the wee street food markets, and there's like loads of wee like local craft breweries and stuff. I don't know if they're actually breweries, but loads of like craft beers and stuff round about there. Loved it, man. Such a nice wee place. And that show was mental. Do you know, honestly, I'm not even just saying this because you're from Birmingham, but that's always been like one of the cities in the UK that's been one of, if not the best for us, apart from Glasgow. Like we have always had, it was 2013 when we done our Uprising tour. I think it was maybe like 2 weeks worth of shows in Birmingham and Glasgow. I think were the only two shows that sold out. Yeah, it's always just had a good show there, and that show in Mama Roo's was mental, man.
It was
mental.
I was kind of I'm one of those ones where like I don't really mosh particularly. Like I just it's not for me. But like so I was kind of standing like round to the side, and even then I was still getting a bit of the like getting bumped around a bit just because everyone was going so nuts for it. I think you guys like. From what I can tell, having looked at the other clips and the other places you played, it felt like the perfect rooms to be playing, where like just the energy was great. Like like you said, you sold out the shows, and then like that was I fucking loved that. And I remember watching you guys at Bloodstock with the fire as well. I was just like, that's so fucking cool.
Yeah. Do you know what's funny as well? See that show in Mama Roo's? So obviously, like apart from Glasgow and London, they were all pretty much like small shows. I mean, Glasgow and London they weren't small shows, but like in comparison, like the other 3 or 4 shows or whatever it was, they were all quite small rooms. Like Mama Roo's, was it like 300 or something?
I think it's about 300, 350, yeah.
Yeah. And so there was no barrier. It was just like the stage, and the crowd were just right at the stage. And it was after that Birmingham show where like our tour manager and stuff was like, we can't like play shows anymore without a barrier if it's all going to be like that. So it was that show in Birmingham where we started to question like this is maybe too dangerous not having a barrier.
Yeah,
because that show was fucking mental. I'm pretty sure someone got their nose broken shit at that show. Did they not?
That's very Limp Bizkit of you.
Exactly. Like
fuck. That's no that yeah. Or maybe. I mean, I guess
Limp Bizkit of you.
What is it? I haven't actually.
Face tonight.
Okay. I was more. I think. Like, or was it? I can't remember if it's like, or if it's Code Orange or someone where people have certainly like taken damage in the. I mean, it's probably happened at any big metal band, hasn't it? To be fair, but yeah. I always love when Fred Durst says in is it Break Stuff where he says, "Yo, some days you feel like a freight train." And you're like, no, Fred, no. I never feel like a freight train. No.
What's the part of it? It's something with a chainsaw. I'll skin your ass raw. Sorry? please do not skin my ass with the chainsaw.
I made a drink first, yeah. Yeah. No, I weirdly with Limp Bizkit, I was one of those people where everyone sort of would shit on them for a bit, and now everyone loves them again. I was like, what? Yeah. I always thought they were good. I always loved Wes's riffs.
Oh, man, I loved them growing up.
Yeah. See, now, but everyone says this now. Man. Everyone now says they do. I'm not saying I don't believe you. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Everyone now will be like, yeah, I always loved Limp Bizkit. Like, yeah, bullshit, no, you didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was like, I grew up in that generation of like new metal where when I was in high school, like when I became a mosher, as everyone called us in high school. That was when like Hybrid Theory, Chocolate Starfish, like Infest by Papa Roach, All Killer No Filler by Sum 41. Not that that's the same, but that was all the music that was sort of coming out at that time, and it was brilliant, man. Like, I loved all that stuff, like Korn, Slipknot. Like, that was the music that got me into heavy music. So I've just got like fond memories when I listen to those albums.
You got Corey singing your praises now as well, which is pretty sick.
What the hell even is that? That is like, I remember the day when he posted that thing on Instagram. I was in LA and just on holiday, and woke up in the hotel room. My phone was just fucking like insane. I was like, something's happened. Do you know the crazy thing is, like, oh shit, I'm picking my phone up, forget I'm recording. I'm not even joking. Like, my phone had went that mental. I was my first in it. Like, I'm one of these people, like, my mind always goes to the worst places first. Like, I'm a bit of a warrior when it comes to this. When I seen how mental my phone had gone, I was like, something's happened to one of the boys in the band. And I'm the last person to find out about it. Like, because obviously the time difference, and I woke up and like they had like a full day of like talking about this, and I had just woken up. And then like I seen what in the Bleacher Vin group, I was like, someone says Kennedy's going to lose his mind, because Corey Taylor's like, since I was a child, like, my idol, man. Like, he's the guy that I wanted to sound like, you know, when I was younger. And then I seen that post and I just like jumped up out of bed. I was like, oh my God, running about the hotel room, like just dancing about and stuff. It was like fucking mental, man. It's like, I'll never forget that day. It's like one of the most important things that's happened to me the whole time I've been in a band. Is just someone that I've looked up to my entire life, just taking notice and appreciating what we're doing. It's mental.
Well, I mean, it's so
cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's you know, like in a different way. That's the similar thing. Like when I showed you, you know, it's the same process. Where if I show you some music and then you kind of respond the way you responded, like I said, I didn't expect you to get back at all, and you know, I guess you can sort of feel like you've done your good deed, in that, like, however you felt, to at least some degree. I don't know, I'll be honest, I don't know if I was quite like running around the room like, oh my God, but
why not?
it did have a really positive impact. but and the guys in the band are all like super stoked that you said you liked it, you know. So
I really did like it though. I wasn't just saying that. Like, I genuinely listened to that. It was an EP, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I listened to that like in my car just driving around. Like, so good, man. The riffs are incredible. Like, vocals are amazing as well.
Yeah. No, it's just, you know, sometimes it's just not the right situation for you, you know. It kind of, it wasn't where I want, you know, it kind of just wasn't where I wanted to be with my life in you know, sometimes you just got to do what's right for you, haven't you, kind of thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
I've always kind of said to people on the podcast, like, I have to say that I chose to leave, otherwise someone thinks you're in trouble for something. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know, maybe I'll send you another EP at some point, probably.
Yeah, I look forward to it, man.
Shit out, yeah. Well, cool. I mean, we've neatly covered all of my not questions on the or from at least having a look. I did put one thing that I thought was, because your company's, is it 12-inch media, is that the name?
Yeah.
I just put 12-inch media, name a bit of a brag.
It's funny as well, because like Gunzi always says it sounds like we're like some like porn film production or something.
I guess it depends how many of you are in the company. Like, is that a shared? No, I'm not going to go into
the three of us combined, probably more like it's the size of like a vinyl, like a vinyl basically, because it started out 12-inch media started started out as a like Gunzi and a bunch of his mates were like, Gunzi went to uni to study sound engineering. And a bunch of his mates did as well, and they started a company. Like, it initially started out as like basically a recording studio, and that's why they call it 12-inch media, because it's the size of a vinyl.
Yeah.
So Gunzi says anyway.
It's just why you didn't do like CDs. It'd be more like, you know, 4, 5 or 6 inch. I don't know how big a CD is. That wouldn't have been so great. Yeah.
Not as much bragging rights.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, just measure it in centimeters. It seems more. Yeah. Anyway.
32. Fucking hell, man.
Oh man, my parents listen to this. Anyway.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, they would have listened to me talking to Jason about bloody this, that, and the other. So, you know.
My dad doesn't even listen to my band, so.
Oh, really?
Consider yourself lucky.
Yeah. Anyway, it's been super interesting, like hearing. Like I said, I think because your band's had quite a unique kind of arc in the way that at least from the outside in, you know.
Yeah.
So it's interesting hearing your kind of take on kind of all that stuff. So I need hopefully unrelated to the things we've just been talking about, a question for the next guest.
What size is your vinyl?
Yeah, something along those lines, and or not, and also an artist for you to recommend as well. I forgot to mention that.
Also,
that deserves some love.
I'm one of these people, like, this is what, like, even just doing things like this, like, I struggle to do things like podcasts when I'm like answering a question on the spot. See, I trip up over my words and stuff like that. I'm so bad for it, man. That's why, like, part of the reason why I put off doing this for so long, but the main reason I want to do it is because I really like you as a person. Fucking dickhead.
That is a compliment.
So I guess you can't tell me who the next guest is? No.
I don't actually know, because it kind of depends on how my schedule goes. So actually, I don't think I actually can tell you.
Right, so I guess I'm trying to think of a question then, jeez.
Bum, bum.
Can you tell me if it's like a band or, you know, like...
I would keep your question open, not as open-ended as how many inches or any of that business, but like, you know, open-ended enough.
Right, okay, I'm going to go pure basic here and just say pineapple and ham and pineapple and pizza, yes or no.
Okay, that works.
How's that?
That works. Yeah,
it's the most basic question in the world.
But I've actually never had a ham and pineapple pizza because I just dislike the idea of it so much that I just don't want to have it.
I've never tried it either.
So I say no, but
I love pineapple.
Huh?
I love pineapple though.
I do like pineapple, but not with cheese. It's more the pineapple. Huh?
How do you know that?
What? Like, the same way I'm still a bit like, you know, when you're a kid and you just say you don't like something because you just kind of don't, you know, because...
Yeah, and then you try it and you find out you do.
Yeah, bacon was bacon for me when I was a kid. For some reason I didn't like...
Really?
Yeah, I just said I didn't like bacon and then I had it and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, no, I really like, this is really good. Don't know how that happened. Cool, and then I need an artist for you to...
Right, so a band that I've been listening to loads, I'm just going to look at my Spotify, and this band are probably going to be like my most played, like, what do you call that? Your 22
you're
wrapped up or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to pick this album anyway. Yeah, I'm going to say Teenage Wrist.
Okay.
Have you listened to Teenage Wrist?
No, I've never...
Phenomenal band, man.
Okay.
It's kind of like, reminds me, it's like quite grungy, but a bit sort of like, you know, that early 2000s, like, I don't know if I'd say emo, like sort of Jimmy Eat World, but a bit more grungy and fucking brilliant, man. Like,
okay,
amazing.
Nice. Yeah. Sick. That's really good. I was saying to, so the guy who asked your question was, Frank Turner.
Oh, yeah. Fucking hell. What a legend.
Yeah. So he that's who asked your question, and he's obviously his question for you was like a band whose music you'd delete from history or whatever. And I was saying, wouldn't it be funny if like the band he says is your artist recommendation, as in if Frank's artist if you just shat all over the band he recommended. I thought that'd be a good one.
It's so funny, like, see, years and years and years ago, we played it was, do you ever remember that festival Pickle Pop?
The name kind of rings a bell. It
was the festival that like the Foo Fighters and stuff were booked to play, and like that freak storm hit and like people died and stuff. Remember that?
No.
So we were booked to play it, and we get caught in the middle of all this. Like it was mental. Like literally seeing people die, man. It was fucking wild. Like I feel like I've just deleted it from my memory until you mentioned Frank Turner there. So we basically left that festival. We had to obviously leave. So we booked like a couple of last minute shows on the way home. And I'm pretty sure we were booked to play in a bar. And Frank Turner was also booked to play that night, but we never got to meet him. And we were staying because we knew the guy that was putting on the show. So he just chucked us on the show.
Yeah.
I think that's how it happened. It was definitely Frank Turner, but there was just something happened. What a shit story, man. I can't even remember what happened.
I nearly met someone. I can't remember why.
Fucking hell, what a terrible story.
No, to be fair, it's a small world. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if I have any small world stories. I don't think I have any, yeah. I was talking to Goonsy and he was saying this quite a while, but I seem to remember saying how he bumped into a random fan in like Spain or something. Which just like, I can't remember what he said, but that's my story as shit as yours. I can't even remember what he said. Well,
you're terrible at this. You're actually pretty good. I'm terrible.
No, man. I think like I think that the thing is like whoever you chat to for an hour, like anyone that's interested in you or like you know, I've had a few people where they'll be like, oh, I'm concerned about like, you know, like they just think, oh, I was that great or whatever, and I'm just like, well, like people just want to hear about it. They don't want to hear like just about you. They actually want to hear you talk as you, if that makes sense. That's why I think podcasts are way better than stuff. Yeah, like so yeah.
See, that's the thing. That's the one thing I struggle with, like being in a band. It's like, who gives a shit what I have to say? Who gives a shit about what I'm doing? Like, I struggle with that. Like, and I feel like that's maybe why. And going back to what you're saying, like when we were talking about like speaking to people at shows, I find that so easy because I do not view myself as a rock star, like, you know. Yeah. And I struggle with that, like, whole, why do people give a shit about what I have to say? That's why I hate doing interviews and stuff like that.
Well, I'm glad I could supply you with a source of hatred for an hour and 19 minutes.
You've ruined an hour of my day. Thanks so much.
Sick. On that note, have you got anything you want to promote to the world or share?
A new album. I was going to say I'm actually going out for Goonsy's birthday tonight for dinner with Goonsy. Yeah. So go wish Goonsy a happy birthday. But by the time this comes out, it will no longer be Goonsy's birthday. No. So yeah, check out our new album, Shrine.
Extremely belated.
If you're listening from the States, come see us in the States next year. If you are listening from anywhere in Europe, buy tickets to our headline tour in December. There's only like a few tickets left for some of the shows, so
you're wildly overestimating my audience. Yeah. No. That's great. That's great. Yeah. Wicked. Well, thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks for having me, man. It's been a pleasure. It's been terrible, to be fair, but it's been a pleasure. I'm joking.